Deeply honored to present our last but definitely not least plenary speaker, Vicky Loras from Switzerland. Vicky, being very honest and very modest, has put very little in her bio. I can only divulge a little. For the rest, I'm sure she'll be happy to tell you herself. After 17 years of teaching English as a foreign language and literature to students of all ages, and both in Greece and then Switzerland, which is sort of stealing it from us. Switzerland is stealing Vicky from us. She co-founded her own school. It's called the Loras Network, English Network, sorry. She started in Zug, Switzerland, or is it Zug? It's Zug, Switzerland, with her sister, Eugenia. That's another excellent member of the Loras family. Now there are teachers, teacher trainers, international presenters. They hold children's educational events and more and more. She honors me with her personal friendship, which I'm even more deeply honored for. It's time now for her to get to know you, for you to get to know her more and come out of her talk touched, because her talk is the human touched. Thank you. Over to you, Vicky.
Okay, after that introduction, I don't know how I can start. Thank you very much, George, for introducing me. Thank you all very much for being here today. At this time of day, it's a Sunday afternoon. I'm sure a lot of you are teaching tomorrow morning or tomorrow in general, and you have given up your own personal time to be here today with me. So I'm very honored by your presence, and I'd like to thank you very much for being here. I'm very happy because this is my very first plenary speech, plenary talk. I'm very honored, if I can say so, and very proud that I'm doing my first one for TESOL Macedonia Thrace, because I have a very special connection to the city. I'm originally from Ioannina, Greece. I grew up in Canada, and I went here to university. I spent 4 amazing years in my beautiful Thessaloniki, which is my absolutely most favorite place in Greece. So I'd like to thank you very much, and I'm very, very honored to be doing my first plenary here with all of you and in this city today. I hope you can leave here with a few new experiences. You might even find yourselves in these stories that I'll tell you today. I hope you find it useful. First of all, a few things about myself. George told you a few. As I told you, I was born in Canada from immigrant parents who moved to Canada from Ioannina, Greece. We came back to Greece when I was a little girl, and my sisters, who are also English teachers like me, we opened an English language school in Ioannina, Greece, which we had for 10 years, and we had 13 more teachers working with us, 13 amazing human beings with whom we still have contact with. And at the time we had to close down our dear school, we had around 200 students of all ages. Well, we had to close down our school for professional reasons. We had a professional opportunity in Switzerland. It wasn't an easy period. It wasn't a smooth transition because you go through a mourning period. It's something you've created on your own, and suddenly you have to close it down to go and do something pleasant again, but still you can't leave one thing behind and go just on and move on and do a new thing. So we went through a difficult time then. I moved to Switzerland, as I told you, for a professional opportunity. I had found a job there, or so I thought. Because before I went, I had an interview with a school that told me they were going to hire me. I was very happy to start off anew in Switzerland. I didn't know anyone there, but the good thing was that I was moving with my sister and her whole family. I said I thought so because when I arrived in Switzerland, ready to sign my contract in my new school, I went there and they said, you know what? The crisis is coming in a few months, and Switzerland, not being directly a member of the European Union, it affects them as well, and they like to be proactive but unfortunately they were proactive at a time when I went to start with a dream. If you see in the background, this is my city. It's called Zug. It's 20 minutes from Zurich, and this is the lake, which also has the same name, Zug, and the mountains in the back of the Rigi. And it was the first thing that I saw when I arrived in Zug. And I thought, great, this is a great place to start. But unfortunately, I couldn't start because, as I told you, that school told me that we cannot hire you. So you can imagine, in 5 minutes, the whole building tumbled on my head. And I thought, what am I doing now? I'm in a foreign country. I know no one. I don't have a job. My savings were very few. What can I do? I was unemployed for the first time in my life, and it went on for a whole year. It was probably the worst year in my life. A lot of good things came out of it, but I wasn't sure at that time. I thought it was only happening to me. And I thought, why should this happen? I came to Switzerland to start a new life, to start with a new job. Nothing of that is happening. What am I going to do? So the first thing I started doing was applying for other jobs. So I started making these 94 applications every month, because that's how many schools there were around the region. And they would come back either with no reply or with the same replies. You're missing X and Y qualification, we can't hire you, or the crisis is coming, we can't hire you. Thanks for understanding. I was sick of seeing that message at the end of the emails and their phone calls. Thanks for understanding, because I had no understanding. I wanted to start my new life there. I remember it was May, and I was sitting there in front of my computer, having submitted the same 94 applications which I had in my sent box in my email. And I think that was one of the first times in my life that I had really reached rock bottom, where I thought that it was useless, that I was stupid, that I had no hope at all. And I was sitting there, I remember, in my laptop, having sent off the same 94 applications, and I was thinking, what am I doing here? I didn't come here for this. So many months have gone by, I've had no replies. I was feeling very down, very mopey and everything. I had really reached the lowest point. And that's when something happens inside of you, like that little angel sitting on your shoulder that comes and talks to you or and motivates you maybe. And I thought, hey, snap out of this. You're not doing anything by sitting down and moping around and thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Get up and do something you like right now. And I thought, okay, what do I like? We teachers were kind of geeky because we like our jobs spill into our personal lives as well. For example, we see lesson plans where nobody else has seen one. We get a receipt from the supermarket and we think we can use it in our classes. Or we see a product in the supermarket, we think, oh, great, I can use this. So I thought, what do I like? I thought, ELT. So what did I do? I typed ELT stuff in my Google search box. And a lot of links came up. And one of the first links that came up was Ken Wilson's ELT blog. I'm sure a lot of you know Ken Wilson. And those of you who were at my workshop yesterday, I hope you'll forgive me for repeating the same story. But it's very important to me, and if you don't mind, I'm not exaggerating. It completely turned around my whole career and my whole thinking as a person and as an educator. So I saw Ken Wilson's blog. I knew Ken Wilson. I wasn't sure what a blog was. I had a vague idea. So I thought, okay, let's click on this and see what he's doing there. So I was about to be touched by a human touch far away. Little did I know then. I was very badly mentally and psychologically, as I told you. So I clicked on Ken Wilson's blog. And I saw that there he was writing blog posts about his teaching ideas, his traveling, his ideas about culture, anything that came to his mind that he could write about ELT. And I thought, wow, this is cool. Let me start reading his blog posts. So I started reading them. I saw that people were leaving him comments. and he was answering back. Some of them agreed with him, some of them disagreed. And I thought, hey, this is a great idea. So one day I was reading one of his blog posts that was called, it was about culture, and it was called, Who Cares What English People Have for Breakfast? Because it was one that was against stereotyping, because we think English people, they eat beans and sausages for breakfast. So Ken was writing, no, that's not true, and he was writing against stereotypes. And I really, really liked that blog post. So I thought, maybe I can write, not something clever, I'm sure I can't write anything clever to tell him, but that I liked it. And I did leave him a reply, and he answered back. He said, thank you, I'm very happy that you like it. And because when you leave a comment on a blog post, you have your email address there, he actually contacted me. And he said, oh, this is the first time I'm hearing about you. Who are you? What is your teaching career like? And I thought, oops, wrong question. I don't have one. So what happened then was I wrote him this long, tear-soaked, mopey, whiny email. I don't have a job. I went to Switzerland. I couldn't find one, and I still can't find one. And I wrote him my whole story. As soon as I pressed send, I had regretted it. Because I thought, poor guy, what's he listening to right now? And he answered back, and he said, you know what, yeah, this happens to a lot of people. It's happened to me, it's happened to him, her, what have you. But I want you to do 3 things, he said. I want you to keep sending those 94 applications, because somebody's bound to employ you at some point. I didn't believe him then. I told him that afterwards. I thought nobody is, if they haven't done it for months now. So that's the first thing. Keep on sending those applications. Insist. Go and knock on doors. Keep working in other jobs, because I started taking on other jobs like babysitting, cleaning houses, because I had to keep the immigration department at bay in Switzerland. It's very strict. If you don't have an income, they just kick you out of the country. So keep making those applications. Number 2, join Twitter. And I thought, Twitter? That's another distraction. I already have a lot on my mind. And how's that going to bring me food to my table? How can joining social media do it? It didn't, but I'll tell you how it helped me, though. And his 3rd piece of advice was start a blog. And I thought, what could I possibly write on a blog? What if I write something stupid and people say, oh, please, what do you have to share with us? And I told him these hesitations that I had, and he said, well, start them, and the worst thing that can happen is you can just delete your profiles. And I thought, okay, what's worse than being unemployed? Having a Twitter account that doesn't function and a blog that nobody likes. So I started Twitter, and I started connecting with teachers all over the world. And I started to see that there were other people like me too, other people that had been unemployed or that were unemployed. They started giving me advice. Don't worry, you can do this and this. I saw teachers sharing ideas. I saw teachers sharing blog posts, activities, links, and that gives you motivation. You think, okay, maybe something will happen. Maybe I'll find a job. Maybe slowly things will pick up. It gives you motivation and a lot of strength. And I started my blog too, where I started writing about my own teaching ideas from the past, not the current ones, because I didn't have any current teaching ideas. And people started replying to me. Sometimes they agreed, sometimes they disagreed. It didn't find me a job then and there, but I slowly started finding teaching jobs, and it just gave me motivation and strength, this whole experience. And I told Ken how much it helped me, and I told each and every teacher I was connecting to how much their experiences were helping me. So after this human touch that touched me as a teacher and affected me and still affects me up to now, and I see a lot of teachers in here that I've connected to on social media, and I see a lot of teachers that I've met for the first time this weekend, and I'd like to thank you all for affecting me in one way or another, and I'm sure you still will in the future. Are you ready to take a trip with me all around the world and see different kinds of teachers? You might find yourselves in these stories. You might have your own. Feel free to share as well. Are you ready to take a trip with me all around the world and see some teachers? Okay. Well, we won't start far from here. We'll start again from Ioannina, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's about 3 hours from here by bus. That's where I started teaching. We had a school there. It was called the Loras Academy then. And we tried to make it as comfortable as possible, as a positive environment for learning as possible. Not only for us, the teachers that went there, but also for our students. And what we noticed was that the kids, the students and the adults too, they didn't just come and walk out the door. They felt so comfortable that sometimes they were passing right under our school, and they would come up to say hello, tell us their problems, tell us their worries, tell us that they did something. They're sharing their little successes and failures. So, okay, sorry, this is the social media. What we noticed was that apart from us, the teachers, nobody wanted to leave. On the left-hand side, you'll see the Loras Academy. That was our school in UN, and those were our kids that didn't want to leave, and they came to our school, they spoke to us, they sat and looked through the books. They were stocking up on knowledge, and at the same time, they were building a relationship with us. Like Doris mentioned yesterday, some of them even called us mom, because we were scolding them like moms, we were happy with them like moms, and they didn't want to leave. That's one of the things that pained us when we had to close down our school. Now that we built a new school in Switzerland, the Loras Network, we called it, because that's what we are. We're not on our own. We're a network of teachers worldwide and a network of students. Again, we see that our students are starting not to want to leave, which is a good sign, I think. On the right-hand side is my nephew, Nicholas, and my niece, Maggie. They're my sister's kids. Great, I got through that slide without crying, because every time I reached that when I was rehearsing, I just broke into tears when I saw them. So that's one important thing when we have our kids at our schools, that they feel comfortable in their learning environment. Not only to teach them the present simple and the present continuous and the difference and just send them out the door. They're there for even more things. Okay. We're not going to move from Greece just yet. We're going to meet a teacher in Athens, again, not far from here. Before we go and meet her, though, I don't know how many of you use technology in your schools or in your classes, either if you're teaching private, state schools. How many of you are using technology? Okay, quite a few. Now we're so lucky, and we read everywhere. New apps, this app does this, that app does the other thing. New websites to learn on. We have such a multitude of materials to use right now that sometimes it can be overwhelming. We're very happy to find all this material, but sometimes it can be very overwhelming. However, if we want a lesson plan, we can just Google a lesson plan on the Olympics and get 17 million hits right away. So we're very lucky. But is it only enough to use these apps and just send the kids out the door? The human touch has to come in again. And I've been in classes where they use technology and the teachers say, yeah, today we used that and that app. And I tell them, oh, great, what did the kids say? What did they learn? And the teachers say, well, I didn't have the opportunity to talk to them because they were enjoying it so much that I didn't want to interrupt them. But the human touch has to come in here again into play. Sorry. Here we have Sofia Mavridis. Sofia is an EdTech specialist. She uses technology a lot in her classes, but she incorporates the human touch as well. Here she is with her kids on an iPad, but she's teaching them much more than using the actual app. She's teaching them how to use it in a safe way and time-wise as well. So that's the whole point. When we're integrating technology in our classes, it's a great tool. And those of us who have the opportunity, not all of us do, it's great to have it in our classes. But we also need to help the kids learn that it's just a part of the learning process. It's not the point about handing out apps and saying what great technology teachers we are and then writing huge blog posts that we use that and that and that app. It's also helping them to use the apps time-wise and safety-wise. And we need to be there for guidance as well, because there are so many dangers out there on the internet. It's not enough just to take away the technology from the kids. We have to show them that we trust them with it, and that they can use it on their own. When they're trusted, they really, really know how to handle it, how much time they have to use, and how to use it for effective learning, and how to avoid all the dangers that there are there. So that's what I like about Sophia, and I'm sure a lot of you are like Sophia. You're there to guide your students when they're using technology. It's just a part of it. It's not the whole thing. Okay. Before we move countries now, I'd like you to shout out to me how many students on average you have in your classes. Maybe you're teaching in state schools, private, I don't know where you're teaching. Just shout out, how many students do you have in your... 25, okay. 10, 12, 2, okay. 20, 25. Anybody higher than 25? 26, okay. Great. So we have 26. Okay, that's a lot of people in there. That's a lot of humans to be touched in there. What if I tell you, not me though, 55? What if I tell you 55? What would you say? That's what I said too. 55. Yeah. Where? Well, Korea, Asia, China, Switzerland. Well, Africa, okay. A Greek island maybe. A remote Greek island maybe. It's rather close to a remote Greek island, this area. We're going to meet a very enthusiastic young teacher. He's located in Istanbul, Turkey. Dinçer, who's also my Turkish teacher, because I'm doing 1 hour a week with him of Turkish, has 55 little human beings in his classes. And when he told me this, I thought exactly the same thing a lot of you might have been thinking. 55? My God, how do you do it? In a lot of countries around the world, there are even more people in some classes, either for financial reasons or either for population reasons, because you can imagine in a country like with 18 million people, 1.5 Greece in one city, that a lot of classes are like this, and some of them, he told me, have even more people. So what I immediately thought was, okay, mixed abilities classroom, multi-level classroom. But then I thought, no way. That's a multi-human classroom. Imagine how many characters there are in there, in those 55 people. How many talents and gifts there are in there. Of course, he can't touch each child the same every day, because imagine with 55 kids in the classroom. He tries his best though, and he told me a few ideas he does. He incorporates. He splits them into little groups and gives them activities and passes right through their tables and chairs and looks what they're doing. And he told me that the kids, without him prompting them, take on the role of the teacher. They have a little coordinator in every group automatically, and they help out each other like kids do without even being told to do so, which I thought was amazing. And here, I loved this picture. I asked him for it because he was playing the guitar for them, and all 55 of them were singing and clapping and responding to him in English. And he allowed me to tell me this story. I said, that's fantastic. I didn't even know you play the guitar. And he said, I don't. But still, he managed to capture their little hearts, kept them speaking in English, and he managed to engage each and one of those 55 little human people. Little humans. Human people, human beings. So, we call them multi-student, multi-level, mixed abilities classes. Yeah, because there are a lot of abilities in there, and it's difficult. I would call them multi-human classes. Each and every one of them is touched by us, even at moments that we don't think they are. Once I remember I was in a class here in Thessaloniki when I was a student teacher, and there were 38 kids in that class. And I thought, probably they didn't learn anything, that group over there that were sitting quietly. And they came and they spoke to me after the class and they said, oh, I really liked what we did, that and that and that. I learned that. And I thought, wow, cool. But it was them, not only me, it was them too. They were participating. So in these cases, we can divide them into little groups, like Dincher does. There are so many characteristics to build on. There are the confident ones that can become the coordinators of the group. Sometimes they switch, but they really, really help each other. It's amazing what kids can do. And they're learning, even when we feel that they aren't. He tells me stories that his kids remember things that he doesn't even imagine would touch them. And they can play teacher in turns. Kids love taking the role of the teacher. And it's great for a smooth learning environment. Like I mentioned earlier, he can't touch each and every one of them the same every day. But only the fact that that day he engaged all 55 of them at the same time, for me that was a miracle. And I asked him for that photograph. I said, can I please put it in my plenary? And he was very happy to do so. And I thank all the teachers who gave me their photographs. Before we move on to the next one, to the next teacher, you'll allow me to do a little flashback again. I'm sorry for all the flashbacks, but we do that. I'm going to take you to another lovely teacher. She's in here right now. I'm very honored that she's here. But before I tell you about her and what a miracle this woman is, and I'm sure a lot of you are like this, I'll take you back to my university years. I was a freshman, I remember, full of enthusiasm. Yeah, I want to teach, I want to do this and that and conquer the world. And one day one of my professors came in and she started talking to us about how we can teach primary and secondary students. And I remember she rather firmly told us, at no point in your careers are you to show the kids that you are emotionally attached to them. They will only take advantage of it. You should never ever show them that you like them or that you're attached to them. And I remember I was 18 years old. I felt really disappointed at that moment. And I thought, but how? They're people. The students are people. How can I not show them that I'm interested in what they're doing in their lives and attached to them emotionally, like my teachers had done with me before? And I remember when I exited my classroom that day, a lot of my course mates told me the same thing. They said, I really can't believe she said that. She might have had her reasons. I'm not criticizing her right now. I just remember how shocked I was as a little girl, ready with dreams to become a really great teacher. So I promised myself there and then that I would not follow her piece of advice, even if it was wrong or not. I said, you will not follow this piece of advice. We're going to come back from Istanbul. We're going to come back here to Thessaloniki. Because I'm going to introduce you. You probably know her. A lot of you in here. She's also one of the roving reporters of the conference. It's Theodora Papapanayotou. When I first connected to her on Facebook, I didn't know her from my Greek years here. I was so impressed with how much she is attached to her students. She's like a mom to them. And she's exactly what I love seeing in teachers. Not only teaching them the difference between present perfect simple and past simple and when to use them and all the keywords and things that we can distinguish the two tenses and they can leave the room. She's there for them, if I can say, for their whole lives. And today also, one of her students who's also in the slide is here, Eleni. Thank you, Eleni, for coming. So here she is, Theodora and her kids. I don't know if you agree with me, but I'm very, very pro that the teacher is also the guardian for that 1, 2, 6 hours that we're with them. We're kind of like their temporary parents. As romantic and idealistic as it sounds, the kids trust us and they want to tell us their problems and they want to tell us their concerns. They want to tell us that they love us. We fight with them like parents. We scold them, stop doing that. We love them, and we celebrate their successes and their failures with them. How can we not be touched by these little human beings? And that's what Theodora does, and I'm so happy to know other teachers like her as well, who care so much about their students. My mom sometimes tells me why I haven't married yet. It just hasn't happened. Because you need to have kids, she says. I love children. I would love to have some one day. But I tell her, for now, I have my kids at school. We are the lucky parents of scores of kids that pass through our hands. And we have different kinds of students. Happy ones, sad ones. Students from troubled backgrounds, unfortunately. They carry a lot of baggage from home, or kids with different kinds of problems. And they trust us with them. Kids with learning difficulties, students with learning difficulties that we can also help them with them. And students with health problems. That it's not only about them learning, it's also about emotional support. And sometimes they need help with other things as well. Maybe it's us touching their forehead to see if they have a fever, or I'm sure a lot of you have done it like I have. They even have teeth that need to be pulled out. I have a wobbly tooth, one told me, and we took it out at that moment. So we're kind of like their parents for that 1, 2, 3 hours a week. I really strongly believe that. And I think that we should be there for our kids because they're there for us as well. And they need emotional and psychological support as well. Okay, before I take you to the next teacher, this one is also one of my heroes. I've never ever met him before, but I saw him on a video on Facebook from a teacher that posted him there. This teacher really goes literally through hell and high water to get to his students. I'll show you a little video of this teacher and what he does to get to his kids. I've seen it so many times. He's just amazing. So let's travel to India. Yes, before we go to that, we call our kids, they're a part of our hearts. And let's go to India.
Teachers typically don't go into their line of work for the money, but instead want to inspire the next generation. In India, one primary school teacher loves his work and students so much that he wades through dirty water that reaches up to his neck each day for his commute. A 40-year-old parent of 4, Abdul Malik, has been teaching for 20 years at a school more than 7 miles away. He said, "If I go by bus, it takes me 3 hours, but swimming through the river is easier, faster, and I reach school on time." Every morning he spends 15 minutes making his way across the river with a rubber tube around his chest and holding his bagged clothes, lunch, and shoes up high in one hand. After changing into dry clothes, he hikes uphill for 10 minutes to the school. Besides the regular curriculum, Malik also teaches his students to swim and, after witnessing the condition of the river swirling with filth, hopes that they will see the importance of taking care of our environment. Showing appreciation with handwritten notes, Malik's students are equally inspired by him. One 7-year-old said he wants to be just like Malik Master.
What can I say about this teacher? I don't know actually his living conditions, but I'm speechless. I've seen it so many times, this video, that I'm truly speechless. The first thing that came to my mind is he travels over hell and high water to get to his kids. He could have not cared. He could have taken the bus, going safely at his own pace. But he thought that he can get earlier to his kids, holding his bag with his things over his head. I think that was very moving for me. I don't know how you found it. I think he's just amazing. And he goes to great lengths for his students, not only swimming to get to them, not only teaching them, but he uses the river, the medium that takes him to school, to teach the kids about other things as well. He teaches them how to swim, and he teaches them about the environment, how to keep the river clean. So what can I say about this teacher who does this thing for his students? Do you know anyone? Have you ever heard this story before with this video? You've seen it, I'm sure. It went viral at one point. I was very moved by it. Okay, we're going to come back to Greece now. But before we do, I'd like to ask you a question. What do you think Larissa, it's about 2 hours from here, I think, 1.5 hour, Larissa and Taiwan have in common? What do you think? What do you think they have in common? Two places so far from each other. Pen pals? The teacher from Larissa I'm going to show you right now is in here as well. I'm very lucky she's here. She's Aphrodite here in the front. Aphrodite Guris. Aphrodite collaborates with a teacher in Taiwan called Annie Tsai. And against all odds, they collaborate with each other. What am I saying against all odds? They have a huge distance between themselves. And also, as it happens in many cases, they don't have the support they should have from their administration. Which means there are no financial means for them to do it. There are no other ways for them to connect their classes. But what do? Did they give up? No. They decided to take things into their own hands, and with their own expenses, they send each other materials that their kids make, and they connect to their classes, and they've built such a great relationship. And what's the most miracle of all, they've never ever met in person, I think, Aphrodite, if I'm not mistaken. They've never met in person. So what they do is, they do projects with their kids about their own countries, Aphrodite about Greece, and Annie about Taiwan, on different subjects, and they connect with these classes and send each other cultural elements, and the kids learn not only English, but they learn about the other country as well, which is great because I'm a very big proponent of incorporating culture into the classroom. Because I think it's not only about teaching language, it's about teaching tolerance and values. And Aphrodite and Annie and a lot of teachers I've met do this. They teach culture. Barry Tomlin said once in one of his talks that culture is the 5th skill in the classroom, alongside with reading, listening, speaking, and writing. I really truly believe that. And I believe that kids also have to learn values and respect to other cultures. And Aphrodite and Annie do that very successfully. And they do that at their own expenses. And sometimes they have to walk huge distances to get to the post office to send them. But they never give up, and they connect their classrooms. And the kids are so happy to learn about each other's classes. And every time they continue and they wait for the post to come and bring them those projects. It's absolutely amazing. When I discovered both of them on Facebook, again, I didn't know Aphrodite even from when I lived in Greece. I thought that this is amazing. They are touching each other's classes. The human touch travels over oceans to connect those two classrooms. It's absolutely amazing. So that's how the human touch comes through culture. Students and teachers learn from and influence each other, even through those great distances. It hasn't stopped them. How many years have you been collaborating like that, Aphrodite? Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. How can you not continue doing this when the kids learn about geography and traditions and different cultures, and they're continuing and expanding with other countries as well? To me, that's a miracle, and a lot of teachers do it. Have you ever done this kind of project, like connecting to other countries with pen pals, or I see a couple of you nodding? You did something this year. Okay. Right, yeah, you did it in your talk in TESOL, Greece and Athens too. They were connecting with Argentina and Portugal. Where? Oh, very good. What are you doing there, Despina? What are you doing in Istanbul? That's fantastic. So a language exchange as well. that's the thing that really, really impresses me about pen pal programs like Despina and Aphrodite and a lot of you. And that's what I like about connecting on social media, is that a lot of collaborations have started. It's huge communities that are being built out there. I didn't believe it when I first joined Twitter and later on Facebook. I use them only for professional reasons, to connect with teachers mostly. I never believed in my whole life that such great communities of teachers would be built. I read in an article that teachers are a category of professionals that use social media so effectively for their jobs. We use Twitter, we use Facebook, Google+. I don't use that much, but I've heard about that as well. And they build communities that support each other. And in most cases, we've never met each other, and we might never, ever meet each other, ever. But it's so supportive, and I'm so happy I joined social media. I've never looked back on it, because every day I practically learn something from a teacher. And you don't need tremendous amounts of time. Some people ask me, how do you do it? Where do you have the time to do all this? And I don't have 36 hours in a day either. It can be from 5 minutes. We can be carried away to 3 hours maybe on social media, but we can control that. It happens to me too. Even 5 minutes are enough. You can see a project like that, like Aphrodite's or Theodora's, or you can see the video of Malik, the teacher in India. It's absolutely amazing what's happening over there. So if you're not connected, I would strongly encourage you to do so, if you want to. It's not about plugging into devices like a teacher says in America. It's about plugging into each other. We get support and motivation from each other. I feel that that thing that happened to me in the beginning of my career in Switzerland, it just pulled me out of this quicksand that I was getting into. It gives you motivation and strength, and strength to do more and to keep going. That's how I found my later jobs. It didn't help me find a job, but it just uplifts you and think, okay, I can do this, I think. I can do this. That's what we're missing sometimes. Now we're going to move continents. We're going to move to the US. I don't know if you've ever heard of Erin Gruwell and the Freedom Riders. Have you ever heard of her? Yeah, some of you have. Erin Gruwell is a teacher in California, and the first year she started teaching, when she came fresh out of university, full of dreams like we all are, she was placed in a school in Long Beach, California. For those of you who don't know, Long Beach is one of the areas in the US with the highest crime rates. She was placed in a school, a high-risk inner-city school, as they call them, with a group of, her first class was a group of problematic, they were stigmatized, and underperforming students. So administration wasn't very supportive to her, and they wouldn't even give this class books at the beginning of the year, literature books. Because at the beginning of each year, in a lot of countries, they give the kids literature books so they can follow the classes, and then at the end of the year, they give them back. But to this specific class, they didn't give any books because they thought the kids are only going to ruin them. They won't appreciate them. What Erin did was that she didn't give up. She started working 3 jobs after school so she could buy the literature books on her own and give them to the kids to keep forever. I call this the human touch caught in the crossfire, dodges bullets, and death. Because for these kids, it's not only about going to school and learning. A lot of them have to take 2 or 3 buses to get to school. And a lot of them don't even know if they're going to come through the front door alive because of gang wars raging outside. And a lot of them don't go to school because they're dead in the street. And that's what Erin had to tackle in the beginning. She had to tackle kids that were in gangs, kids that had come from families with abuse stories. So for her, it was a huge battle in the beginning. And as I told you, she started working 3 jobs after school to buy those literature books, which she did for her first class. And she gave them to them in a special ceremony that she organized for her kids with sparkling apple juice and everything, instead of champagne. which she called a toast for change, because that's what she did with them. She gave the books to them in this special ceremony, but she didn't only give the books to them, she gave them her appreciation, her hope in them, because nobody had believed in them before. They were always stigmatized and labeled underperforming, bad kids, gang kids, this kids, that kids. This is a scene from the movie that was shot with Hilary Swank. And she also gave them, on that day, a clean slate, because usually kids start with the grades that they had from the previous years, and most of them had D's and F's. And she gave them a clean slate that day. She said, you can start from the beginning. You can get A's and B's, and I don't care if you get high grades. I just want you to start with a clean slate. It was motivational for these kids. So that's what she did for a toast for change. And she did it with every class from that year on, and she still continues doing it. And she does it with a lot of teachers, with hundreds, literally hundreds of teachers in the US. She writes about this in her books as well, the Freedom Writers, because that's what she established with this first class. She gave them journals that they could write their lives into. They not only practiced their writing skills, they also poured their hearts out into these journals. And in the end, she published them into a book called Erin Gruelle and the Freedom Writers. It's absolutely amazing if you read this book. And also Teach with Hope she's written. And she works with hundreds of teachers around the US, helping them with classes like this. They can't help every single child, unfortunately. Some of them die before they reach the age of 18. Some of them don't want to or can't get out of the situations they're in. But she's helped a lot and a lot of kids. And that's absolutely amazing, I think. And she's such an inspiration. And I'm sure there are a lot of teachers out there that teach in difficult situations around the world. After presenting all these teachers that I've shown you in the slideshow, and I've met a lot of you during this weekend, and you've been absolutely inspiring. Each of you has your own story, and I've learned a lot from you. And I'd just like to tell you a few things before we close. I'm not living on a rosy pink cloud thinking that everything's going to be okay and everything's ideal and super. I know and I understand that the crisis has hit not only Greece very badly, unfortunately. A lot of countries around Europe, even Switzerland is starting to feel the threat of the crisis, and a lot of countries around the world. A lot of teachers have different kinds of problems. Each teacher has their own story. Each teacher has their own problems to face, personal problems, problems in their classrooms, financial problems. It's all completely understandable, and I'm not leaving that behind, because I know I've been in that situation, and I meet a lot of teachers who are in this situation. But what gives me strength and motivation is that all of you, and all of us that are here today, and all of the teachers that I meet online and offline, they're supporting each other. They're supporting their classes, and they're spreading the human touch as far as possible to their kids, to other teachers around the world, and that's absolutely amazing. I know that the problems can't go away with a touch of a magic wand, but I'd like to thank each and every one of you for trying your best, for not giving up on yourselves, on your work, on your teachers. You're fighting against a really difficult situation. We're all fighting against a really difficult, unfavorable situation. I can't even imagine how it is for some teachers around the world, like Malik, who swims across the river, or for Aaron, who travels every day through bullets, or for teachers who are in the crisis. But I'd like to close with a huge thank you, because first of all, you've touched me as an educator and have made me a better person and educator. You touch others, even when you think you haven't, and teachers not only in your own school, but worldwide as well. And you touch your students. So I'd like to close with a little message from Sir Ken Robinson. He's an amazing educator talking about creativity and everything. And I'd like to close with a huge thank you for who you are and for what you're doing and for everything you do for yourselves, other teachers like me, and for your students. Thank you very much. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what counts. The teachers and the students, nothing else. Not the technology, not the dirt floors, not the schools without the windows. It's all of us in the classroom, the people.